Welcome to Women Coding Community, where we build in a safe environment for women to thrive in tech. Our mission, empowering women to be at the forefront of technology innovation, which is mean we would like to build the role models of VP engineers, directors, principals, CTOs. And our vision, how we are going to achieve this, it's about empowering women in their tech careers through many different tools we are developing in this volunteering community, such as giving education for free, giving mentorship, community, and career services. So we do workshops like today, we do events, we connect members with industry mentors with huge experience, and we foster in our Slack supportive community. And also we do online and in-person events. And everywhere we trying to raise more and more awareness for more inclusive industry. We have code of conduct. In 2 words, please be nice to each other. If you see that something went wrong, please do not hesitate to contact me directly, Julia, or send an email to womencodingcommunity.com. We have many projects, starting this mentorship program. We have a platform where you can practice open source contribution and improving your coding skills. We have book club, writing club, speaking club, career club, as you joined today, and resume clinic. And also we provide mock interviews to our members. We support studying problem solving through LeetCode group. And we do system design, track, and mock interviews. And you can find many tips in our newsletter. So many interesting and exciting things. We always looking for more and more volunteers to support our community. We have opportunities to help us organize in-person events or conferences and contribute to our platform, building our website, building our mentorship program. It's very interesting and engaging coding practices that you can learn from us and practice them. We build in blog, so any ideas for tech writing is very welcome. We will support everyone who will submit tech blog and we will publish it. We do newsletter, so if you like to follow the trends and if you want to help us to make it even better, please join our volunteers for newsletter. And many other things. And in exchange, you do so many things. You can find here very friendly community and build excellent network. You can learn and practicing and mastering leadership skills, building strategy of the program, help us to find out more and more around and manage other volunteers. It's very nice perk on your CV in your LinkedIn, and yes, HRs, they notice if you volunteer for our community. And it's tickets to events and conferences for free, first of all, to our volunteers. And of course, it's unforgettable emotions. So thank you. And if you didn't do so yet, please join us. I will quickly add link to the website in our channel. Okay. Today we are going to lead you through workshop on career. And I pass my imaginary microphone to Julia, who is lead risk manager at Swift. Please unmute yourself.
All right, so I'm going to start sharing my screen. Okay. Okay, can I just confirm that you can see my slide?
Yes, that's all perfect.
Perfect. All right, excellent. Well, welcome everyone to our career club. And we're super excited because it's actually our first session for career club, which is very exciting. And we aim at the moment to host one Career Club related session once a month, and we have a corresponding Slack channel as well dedicated to Career Club. So please ensure to get into that Slack channel and stay up to date with our next events. But yes, hi everyone, my name is Julia, and I'm lead risk specialist at Swift. And also I'm a director at Women Coding Community. And today I'm super excited to speak with you and tell you about career development plan, and what's more exciting, actually to try and build one with you. So I really would like to have this session as interactive as possible. So take a minute and pick up a pen and paper, tablet, or a laptop, have a window open for you to prepare to type, because it would be really great if we attempted together to build a career development plan. So that's essentially is the goal of today. So before we start, just a very quick question to all of you. So do you have experience of building career development plan? Have you attempted at building it? How overall are you familiar with the concept? Feel free to send reactions, to send a message in the chat, whatever works for you. Okay, so
I can share my experience. Every year before just New Year, I put my career goals. I put the goals for the whole year, and I put also like, okay, what I would like to achieve in my career in this year.
Excellent. So that's a great example of the annual career development plan. That's great. Excellent. Well, my feeling is that some of you may be well familiar with the concept, maybe directly or indirectly, but I think we all sort of always speak about and think about our development, regardless whether it's career specific or personal. But when it comes to the actual plan, the general definition of it is that it's a personalized strategy, right? So it's something that you design yourself to help to achieve professional goals or personal goals, whatever essentially you are at the point of your life. So it helps you to outline skills and actions necessary to progress when it comes to your career. And usually it is set for a specific period of time. So there is many approaches to building a career plan, and there is no really right or wrong answer to it. But based on my experience, these are some of the most common steps that usually are considered. And I personally built numerous career development plans for myself over my career, which is now coming close to 10 years. And I've worked in numerous industries, from financial services to life sciences. I worked in industry, I worked in consulting. So career development plan, it's something that always is prompted at your workplace, right? So your managers will always want to prompt you to think about your development. So whether it's long term or short term, but if you are in a professional working environment, that's very common concept. So I hope you will find it useful. So when it comes to these steps, today we're going to go through them in great detail, and we will try to reflect and think and take a note of things that essentially work for us and how we envision and how we build career development plan for ourselves. So when it comes to the first step, usually what happens, we start with determining a type of career development plan, right? So we think about, right, so what are those things that matter to me right now when I want to think about? Then we move on with self-assessment. Then we move on with setting up objectives. We identify corresponding actions. We also ensure that we monitor and track progress of our actions, which ultimately fulfill our objectives. And a very important step, which is pointed here as the step 6, is collect feedback, but that's actually is a quite overarching action. That's something that you should consider through your process of building and executing your career development plan. So to make this for us interactive and to sort of make it a little bit more tangible for you to make this and to help you to build together with me a career development plan, I prepared a high-level canvas or a template of a career development plan. So please take a note on your paper, on your laptops. Maybe you can build the same copy of the paper, feel free to use Excel spreadsheet. That's super helpful too. So what we're going to do today together is going to go through all of these steps and populate this together. So I will use my examples, and you take time to reflect on examples and take a note of it. Right? So let's start with the first step, which is determining a type of career development plan. So this is the first initial step when we think what we're trying to achieve at this point of our lives. We try to determine which elements we want to consider in this. And career development plans can be all sorts of type of plans depending on your situations, right? They can be long-term, let's say 3 to 5 years. They can be annual, just like Irina pointed to her example. They can be specific, they can be job specific, they can be specific to developing particular skill, or they can be quite general. They can also be organization specific. If, for example, you want to develop in the organization that you work, or maybe you're looking to work in some organization and you would like to develop in line with values and certain requirements of that organization. It can also be, for example, if you are moving a lateral move, you're looking to change a career. It may be specific to you growing as a leader, for example. So there is no really one type, really. So it really depends on what you want. But I think my overarching recommendation is to use a combination of different types of plans. So sort of create a hybrid. And me personally, that's what I do for my career development plan. So I have different dimensions to my plan. So as an example, in step one, I've pointed here different elements or dimensions, types of my career development plan. So I want to focus on some of the personal areas that I would like to develop. Also, I'm very passionate about ensuring that I stay successful in my current role and that I progress in my role. Also, I want to be successful outside of my role within my organization, so I want to consider that. And also, I acknowledge that I'm not working in isolation when it comes to this world and that industry, also where I am interested in or I work in, is quite important as well. So these are usual dimensions that I use for myself. And now I would like to take a quick pause and just prompt you to have a think about what is that you are concerned with right now. What is that you're looking to develop? And for the purpose of this exercise, you can use just one example, so you don't have to do it multidimensional. But I just wanted to point out to you that there is this hybrid approach to your development and to your career development plan. So please take a minute and think. So what is that? What type of plan would you like to build for yourself? So long-term, short-term, specific, personal, to role, organization, industry, whatever works for you.
If you're talking about organization, do we talking about like the size of organization? Because like if you in bigger organization, you might have more responsibilities to manage more teams or bigger scope. Like what exactly could be in organization?
So one of the good examples I can, for example, say about myself, right? So I work as a lead risk management specialist at Swift. That's my role. But also it's quite important for, let's say, my progression and for my, I would say my brand as a professional, also be known within my organization, right? And it's important to know the organization that you work in. And sometimes when you're really closed off in your current role, you don't have maybe sometimes time to reflect or think about it. But the way you make an impact within your organization, it's also quite important for your development. So myself, for example, I'm very, very passionate about diversity, inclusion, and equality. So when it comes to my personal career development area within organization, is that I work also in that space within my organization. So there is a diversity equality committee, and I engage, and that's like my extracurricular thing, but that's what I see as a development point, and I engage and I work in that. For example, if you work in consulting, and it's very also important to stay connected within the organization that you work. And it also can be the area of maybe another expertise that you want to learn, right? So you may be working within engineering area, but you also would like to learn about business development, right? So you will have a the objective or goal that you would like to develop is to get familiar with that area. So maybe in a long term, you could connect both, right? Your current role and maybe some other area within your organization, which ultimately will be a great progression exercise for you.
So you mean that skills that's connected to organization?
Yeah. So it's from perspective that you have a wider impact within your organization, so you don't work just in silo, right? Because if you do that, right, you may be working one particular area, but you have interest for something else, right? Like I, for example, recently was engaging also quite a bit in artificial intelligence related department in my organization, because I think it's quite cool, it's quite interesting, right? It's innovations that everyone speaks about now, and I was like, all right, I would like to learn. So I made this as a point for myself to get exposed more to that area, and then my area of expertise, which is risk management, linked to that area, right? And that sort of really connects things very, very nicely. So it can be area of interest, it can be area that maybe you see, being at the moment, all on news, and everyone speaks about it, and you feel like it's a great opportunity to learn and make an impact.
Yeah, cool. I shared the template that I made looking at this slide in spreadsheets, so feel free just to copy this. Maybe it will be faster for you. I think we didn't have yet an example for assessment, right?
No. So that's
let's look at it. Like, yes. Okay, we're ready with.
I will show you some of my brainstorming examples, which I hope will make much more sense. But yes, when it comes to the first step, we think about the types, right? So my example is annual career development plan, which captures personal, role-specific, organization, and industry-specific areas, right? So now we're moving to self-assessment, right? So that is the step where we reflect on our current skills, our strengths, our interests, our values, about everything that we want to essentially develop in. So it's really is a step where we think about, right, so what matters to me? What do I want to achieve in, let's say, next year, in the next 3 years? I do the assessment of my skills, and I sort of think, right, so what is that I would like to focus on? I also look at the resources and support that's available to me. So within my organization, for example, what are the trainings that are available? Is there any budget within my organization to go and do outside of organization type of training, certifications, diplomas, right? I utilize my network to ask them, what should I do? What do you think, giving the aspirations in my career that I want, I should be looking at, right? Because, sometimes it's really good, and not sometimes, very often it's really good to ask for advice. So it can be your manager, it can be your mentor. So you can tell them, hey, I'm looking to get promoted next year. So what should I focus on, right? So do you think this is a good move for me? Do you think there is some other alternatives that are more useful for me? Should I be taking on this degree? Should I be thinking about this certification, right? So utilizing network for that is also quite important. And then also I really like the industry trends element. So I always prompt my peers and my line reports and my mentors to think about, right, so what is that matters these days, right? So what type of cool technologies are out there? What is the current innovation that maybe I would like to further develop my skills in? And then also, given the current world, what are some geopolitical considerations maybe I should consider within my aspirations and in my plan? So with all of that, I pretty much put the example for, let's say, myself for the purpose of this exercise, is that when it comes to personal element, I've been receiving feedback that my public speaking could be improved, right? So some of my mentors, my peers, when I was presenting, they were suggesting that this is something that maybe I could get more comfortable with, because presenting can be stressful, right? And there is many ways and techniques how that can be addressed to get yourself more comfortable. So another element to the assessment is that it's not only about determining the areas or skills, but it's also being honest with yourself and asking, right, how actually proficient I'm in those in those areas, right? So, for example, with public speaking, for the purpose of the example, I'm saying I'm quite out of comfort zone with public speaking. So I'm feeling quite uncomfortable, but equally, I know that that's something that will be useful in my career. So I've essentially determined it as a out of comfort zone point. In my current role, my primary responsibility is coding, right? I'm quite good at coding, right? I do this every day and my manager is happy. However, in the current state of affairs in the world with all these technologies and innovations, it's important that I stay abreast with all of the coding, the innovations and new approaches and maybe improvements, right? So I determined this as something that I want to continue build on and improve. Within the organization, I've pointed that I would like to be more comfortable with the risk management approaches, right? So let's say if I'm working engineering and on a daily basis, I might not be as familiar with risk management concepts. But the reason why I'm thinking about it is because a couple of weeks ago, I've been at the meeting, at my organizational meeting, where the CEO came and he said, or she said, that risk management is really important for all employees within the organization, and we all should think about our responsibilities and the way we execute them with a risk mindset, right? So I'm familiar with the concept, but it's a little bit of a stretch for me. So hey, I'm going to add this as an area that I would like to develop. And when it comes to the industry, I work in financial services organization as an engineer, and sometimes I don't get let's say, as abreast with all the news and innovations, with all of the market trends in financial services, but it's quite important as well, right? Because I want to be a well-rounded professional, right? So I'm putting here that I'm quite familiar with, obviously, financial services. I work in it, but it's a little bit of a stretch from development point, because there is many areas of this vast industry that I could explore more to be more rounded professional. So that is my take on the assessment, high-level take on the assessment, and that's usually how I think about my career development plan. So that is a step 2. So take a moment and write down the skill or the area that you think you would like to develop. Have an honest think where you're standing with it when it comes to proficiency.
Hi, sorry. I didn't really understand the difference between skill and proficiency.
Yeah, so skill, it's the, so this is, you know, the actual doing, right? So let's say it's public speaking, it's coding, whereas proficiency, it's assessing how good you're at this, right? So as a when it comes to public speaking, are you comfortable with it? Like, how are you comfortable with it? Are you not comfortable with it? Is it a stretch? Is it something you're already good at but you want to improve? So for the purpose of this example, continuous improvement, that's something that you're already good at, right? So you're already good at coding, but you just want to build on that, right? Continue improve. Stretch, it's something that you're already good at, but there are maybe some little bits and pieces of that skill that you would like to improve. And out of comfort zone, this is something that, for the purpose of the scale, you need most work on, right? So skill, that's essentially is the area that you want to improve, and proficiency, this is your assessment of the quality of that skill. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Can I propose alternatively use something like 3 of 10, 5 of 10,
It
7
really
of 10.
depends. You can
Yeah.
do high, medium, low. You can use scale from 1 to 5, 1 to 10. You can use alphabet, A, B, C, D, whatever, It really depends how you look at. And organizations, for example, right, the different type of organizations, they have different scales for that, right? So this is just a proposed my proposed approach. So whatever works for you, right? So numerical is quite common as well, right? From 1 to 5 or 1 to 4. Very weirdly, many organizations I've seen 1 to 4. I like to use words myself, so that's essentially is my example. But you can use whatever, and you can align with your organization in which you work as well for that. Or let's say your university, right? They tend to use percentages, right? So it really depends what works for you. All right.
Okay, yes, just that here that if you look at my template, I put it there as well. So again, you can follow alternatively my template, and yeah, I put some things that could make sense and could also help you to unstuck. The only thing I still could not understand, what do you mean organization risk management? Because when you explain that it's about how you would like to look, like how do you would like to interact with organization. So to me, first thing comes that I would like to improve network inside the organization to know more people. So at the end, I am more connected.
Yeah, so I think for me, networking, this is more of a personal area, whereas organization, I think this is more, I would look at sort of department areas, right, that you work with. So you learn more about the type of organization that you work in, right? So it can be risk management, it can be, legal, it can be compliance, regulatory affairs, it can be public affairs, right? Business development, sales, so corporate office, right? So it's all the different parts of the organization that you would like to learn. So so risk management I've put here. So for example, in my case, it would be chief risk office, right? So it's more about learning more about your organization and how it works, right? So some organizations are smaller, some are bigger. So for example, within my organization, I really, at the moment, I'm really keen to learn more about strategy area, strategy department. So I have this included in my career development plan.
Yeah, so I would say another example could be for engineer to learn more about business domain of specific part.
Exactly. Because engineering enables business, right? So
yes, exactly. So
I think the more you're going to learn different areas of business, the more, let's say, long term, you have visibility and knowledge of organization. Because right now you may be working for one product, right? And maybe you have aspiration that, in 2 years or so, you want to go and work for another product, right? There are so many, and it really depends on the type of organization. And some of the organizations can be very specific on their expectation of what you should know about more, right? And it can be driven by that, or it can be purely be driven by your interest, right? And it can change, right? So this year you want to learn about strategy, next year you want to learn about one specific product, and then maybe in a year you will grow to be passionate about some regulatory and legal requirements, and you will essentially go and explore those areas within your organization. Yeah, but organization, it's about learning your wider environment within organization, so you just don't stay in silo. Because ultimately that in the long term helps you with see bigger picture and see yourself, right, where can I go, where else can I learn, where can I experiment, what can I try. Because I've seen some of the examples, and I think especially when I was younger myself, I didn't really had that reflection, which ended up in me moving organizations very often when I was younger, right? And I didn't put thought at exploring, right, so what do I actually have at hand, what I can utilize to learn more and see where my skills can be applied.
Yeah, I think I can also add the frameworks that organization is using. So in general, like role is about learning different frameworks, but for example, if they use AWS or Google Cloud, it may be worth to add in the organization level. Yeah, that's actually to learn this framework.
Yeah, absolutely. And organizations are so different. The industries are so different. So, and that sort of is the purpose of that dimension. I think it's quite important. And I wish I realized that when I was younger, but I hope you find this useful. All right. So I'm conscious of time. I hope you had enough time to reflect, and I hope these clarifications helped on top. So once we determined our career development plan types, we did some reflections, we did assessment of our skills. We move on to the meaty part of it. So this one is when we actually determine our objectives. Right, so objectives, they define essentially what needs to be done, right? So we have our skill area we want to improve, we set the proficiency level, and now we will think, right, what we need to do to actually get where we want to be, right? So when it comes to objectives, again, there is many ways how objectives can be set, but one of the most common frameworks, approaches to setting objective is the use of SMART objectives. And from my experience, from most organizations that I've been, this is the most commonly used approach. So it's definitely worth using, and I'm sure that at some point of your life you will bump into it. So SMART objective, it's essentially is a goal-setting framework, right? It helps create clear and achievable objectives. And it's really cool name. I really like it. SMART, easy to remember, but SMART stands for a couple of things. So first of all, it's specific. So your objective needs to be specific. It must be clear. It needs to be measurable. So when you think about what you want to achieve, it's important that there is some sort of criteria in mind through which you will measure your progress and your success. It needs to be achievable, right? So it needs to be realistic, giving attainable given resources that you have, right? I mean, it's great to have, you know, really like high objectives and high expectations of what you want to achieve. But let's say if we're looking at shorter term career plans, or we are looking to set something more feasible, I think that's definitely worth to consider. It needs to be relevant, right? So objective needs to align with, let's say, business or a school that you work, or let's say your personal objective, personal goals, right? It needs to be time bound. So you need to have a clear deadline or a time frame within which you want to essentially achieve your objective. So, and now here is an example of how SMART objective can look. So I took an example of my personal objective, which is public speaking, and I wrote it in a SMART way. So it's quite lengthy, and I don't want you to be scared. So it's really up to you to cut it shorter. I just wanted to really spell it out for you to ensure that it sends the message. So my SMART objective is that I want to improve my public speaking skills. And I want to do that by delivering free presentations to audience of 50 people and more, right? So that's my specific part. I want to attend 2 workshops and practice regularly over next 12 months, right? So it's short, so it shows that measurable element, it shows the time-bound element, right? And also it demonstrates that it's actually is possible to achieve, right? So these are, there's public speaking workshops, practicing regularly, right? So there is that element. And it's also is relevant from my perspective, objective, because it's something that I've received feedback that will be important for me to progress. It's something that will help me to have more effective meetings, to participate in conferences, to get my point across. So from that perspective, it is quite relevant personally to me, right? So SMART objectives, it's really up to you how you sort of record them, right? But I will really recommend consider the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound elements of it. Because if you think about it in that way, it will be much easier for you to move on to the next step, which is to identify actions. So this is, I think, one of the most probably challenging steps. So it definitely takes practice. So be easy on yourself and do practice. And when you are now recording your SMART objective, just spell it out as much as you can, right? Just brainstorm. And if it's really long and lengthy, that's fine. You can cut it later, but just brainstorm and try to capture these elements. All right, so I'm going to give you a minute and try to think what is objective, SMART objective for you to essentially deliver on the skill that you identified for yourself for improvement and development. Any questions at all as you're taking your time, guys? Any clarifications?
Yeah, I think I actually have a small question, but
Yes, sure.
like this, it looks like you're setting goals for like a year, which was your objective, which is good, but how flexible they are? Is there a way to make them more flexible? Because, for example, I'm in junior role, and I'm not quite sure what specific skills I need to get where I want to get, and that's probably part of my goals, one, to figure out that to start with, but is there a way to make it a bit more flexible, or maybe you have experience of figuring out that you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing or don't want to continue doing, and how to work with that?
Yeah, well, one of the things as well to consider, right, that career development plan in general, it's a flexible process, right? So there is a lot of suggestive frameworks, approaches, guidance on that, but ultimately it's about how this works for you, right? So let's say for the purpose of what you're trying to achieve, right, you, for example, don't know at this point how long it will take you, right? It's fine. It doesn't need to be time bound. Just start somewhere and you will iterate as you go along, right? So at first you can just be specific, and you can sort of determine how you could measure it, right? So for your purpose, right? So you said that one of your goals is to figure out what you want to, which skills you need to build to go further up in your career, right? So from that perspective, it's already quite specific. So your question there is that what do I do to progress in my career skill-wise? So that's specific for me, right? I think it's rather achievable. It's quite realistic to me, right? So it's also is relevant to you, right? So time-bound, I would actually challenge you here to think about what do you need to do in years' time? What do you need to do to get progression within your organization, which may be 1 or 2 years, right? Or do you think what do you need to do to become the most senior engineer in the world, right? So so it's really sort of depends, right? But you at this point may not know how to measure that, right? And that's when you go back to the point 2 of self-assessment, the networking part, and ensure to utilize your network to collect that information, how essentially which skills you need to learn, right? So let's say that there's particular coding areas that you need to develop, right? And then once you get more information about that, you can arrange it in terms of how you measure, right? So let's say hypothetically, right, that your mentor tells you, if you want to progress, you need to complete free sets of trainings, right? So I personally had that once when one of the key things for me to get promoted, I needed to do 3 types of different trainings, which was, about line managing, which was about and stuff, right? So that's when it became measurable, right? But I was in the same position as you. Initially, I didn't know, right? But I went back to step 2 and I did this reiterative process, right? Because that's is really useful, right? Because it already shows you, right? So where is that gap in my objective to make it happen? Because if you can't measure it, right? If you will not know if you actually achieved it, right? To some certain extent. So it's iterative. So if you have some sort of blanks in this process, just go back, do more research, speak with your network, and you will sort of start building the idea. So that's how I would go about it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I would like to add here. So, first of all, it's good also to put goals quarterly, and hopefully next session we will talk about this. And second thing, these goals should be aligned with your line managers. Like if you go to community and ask, oh, what exactly I need to learn, etc., you may have 500 advices, but no one of them align with your manager. So it's very important to do quite quick feedback loops with your manager. And yeah, hopefully we will do another workshop exactly for this topic.
Yeah, because it really depends on your, personal circumstances. If you're looking to grow specifically in your role in your current workplace, indeed, like, the feedback from your manager, from manager of your manager, from any other, more experienced people, is going to be a major force for that, right? Because what often happens is, these people tend to decide on your promotion, right? So they know exactly what they're looking for. So you can feed off that information and determine those particular points that they are looking for and you want to build. So when I was, again, going for promotion, I asked exactly that question. I was like, right, so what do I need to do to get where I want to be? Like, what is that you're looking for, right? And then they responded and they said, right, I'm looking at A, B, C, D. I was like, okay, great. So this is my idea of how I can get there. What do you think? So that's indeed is extremely, extremely useful. And I think it's one of the key points to your overall success for sure.
Especially for junior, like when you're in the beginning, you can accelerate faster through quick feedback loops.
Yeah, and that goes back to your network, right? So the more engaged you are, the more people know about your aspirations within the company. If another department knows about your aspirations, they might have opportunity and they will be like, oh, okay, great. I know that this person has been passionate about learning certain things, and why not to have a chat with them, right? So it's definitely worth considering. All right, so I'm conscious of time, and I'm going to show you now an example of my objective. So for the purpose of my limited PowerPoint, I've condensed them in my objectives a little bit smaller, right? But here is an example, right? So when it comes to public speaking, I've just showed you an example. Let's say for coding, right? So if I want to continue my improvement when it comes to my current job, I want to complete 2 technical courses, lead a project in 6 months, and to improve, my already great performance. If I want to connect more with risk department and I want to learn more about what they do, I'm going to try, and outside of my normal responsibilities, let's say, I will go and attend 3 risk department meetings. I will review 2 risk reports in 2 months, right? So I'm quite specific there. And that hopefully will help me to understand more about risk operations within my organizations. And for financial services part, my objective is to attend 2 financial services conferences in 6 months to improve my knowledge and to build my network, right? So that's sort of how, hopefully from stretch, I can move more to the space of continuous improvement. So that is essentially our step 3. Any other questions?
Yes, please. I have a question about the skills. How many skills can we have in one specific type?
Well, it really depends, again, up to you. And I know it's very annoying when someone responds with that, but my advice is make it manageable. Yeah. So I would I would not encourage you to come up with, 20 skills for each of the dimensions, because you will just get overwhelmed. It will be hard to plan. It will be really hard to follow. So I would start with not more than, let's say, couple or 3 skills, because it's really important to prioritize, right? And when you're overwhelmed, it may seem that everything is important, but I can assure you that it's not. There will always be the most important things that you need to learn, right? And again, that goes back to the self-assessment point from speaking with your managers, your mentors, your peers who work in the same, let's say, job as you, right? So that's how I would go about it. I would be focusing on the most important things, because during the assessment, you can brainstorm that you have 10 different areas, for the that you want to improve. You want to improve your network and public speaking, communication skills, writing skills, reading skills, attention to detail, so on and so forth, right? So amongst all of that list, there most probably will be the first 3, the most important that you can focus right now, right? And then when you review your objectives through the year or through the quarter, whatever works for you, you can literally reprioritize, right? And you'll be like, hey, this year I really got comfortable with public speaking, so now I can go and maybe work more on my writing skills, right? So that would be my approach to this. So just do initial brainstorming, prioritize, focus on the most important things, and reiterate as you go along.
Thank you. And also, how specific do the skills have to be? Because you said just coding, which is quite large.
Well, so I just kept it quite general, because based on my title, I think you realized I'm not an engineer. So within coding, there obviously, I'm sure, Irina can tell you more about it. There's many, sub areas and, subsections of that. So again, it depends on your circumstances, right? So let's say if you're a junior and you in general learn coding, right? So you can break the coding down by the areas that are more relevant to you, and you work on developing them, right? So public speaking, I guess, is more specific than coding. So I guess that makes more sense. But the same in risk management, right? There is many sub processes that you can learn, right? So there's assessment, identification, there's monitoring, there's tools, there's all sorts, right? So it really depends how deep you want to go and how detailed you want to go, right? And again, that based on your job, that based on your interests, that based on maybe requirements that your manager says, right? But I would say specific definitely helps, because if it's more specific, it's easier to manage.
Yeah, ask your reviewers to give you feedback, like what areas could be improved, or also do assessment for complexity of different tasks that you see around, and ask like what exactly is the next task I could pick up. For example, you can put as a goal to build some microservice from scratch. It's not maybe possible that it will come in next 3 months, but put it as a goal for your managers, engineers, like, okay, I want to build service from scratch, from like the beginning to the end, and I would learn everything: security, database connections, how to design model, etc. Like, check like what exactly you think you miss. Have you ever designed the data model by yourself? Did you spin up new tables? Did you spin up database itself? Did you spin up the whole cluster? Like, try to do for coding assessment of different complexity of different tasks, and put there, okay, I would like to do much more hard task. What exactly the parts of coding aspect I need to develop to be able to do this right, not just build something on my knees, but do it that it will come to production and won't fail.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
So I could, for example, put these specific ideas in the SMART objective, like build a microservice in 6 months, for example. That could be.
Yes, and address it to all your managers so they would know, like, when there is opportunity to build such a thing,
Yeah,
you will go as the first person to build it. On May, they will say, okay, first develop this, and then we will target these goals. And you will get feedback and realign your goals. Something that's Julia going to say next. Okay, let's go next.
All right, excellent. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So we've determined type of a career plan. We did our assessment, we set up our beautiful SMART objectives, and now we need to think, right, so what is that actually that we're gonna do to deliver our objectives, right? So we are gonna identify actions. So determining actions is pretty much taking your objectives and breaking them in smaller chunks, right? Thinking, right, so what is that I can do to deliver on my objectives? Small things that ultimately enable the wider objective, right? So when it comes to objectives, so I would suggest to use a similar approach to what I was just saying about skills. Just sit down and brainstorm about different things that you can do to deliver objectives, right? So do your research, speak with your network, so see what's the best way how you can deliver on this objective, right? And again, it's really important to prioritize, because you can brainstorm thousands of actions. We don't want that. We're going to get overwhelmed. We're going to get stressed and anxious. We don't want that. We want just something that is manageable, something that just will help us to achieve what we need for the time frame that we selected, right? And we will brainstorm a handful of actions. And again, so we can do this in a cohesive way, we will arrange each of those actions, let's say by quarter, by week, right? So let's say if you have a specific project, you may have your actions sorted by the week, right? If it's something like improve your public speaking, for example, right, which you most probably will do on top of other skills, role-specific skills that you do, I would arrange such type of actions quarterly, right? So that's what I attempted to do here. So I want to improve my public speaking skills, and what I've decided that in Q1, I will start with attending public speaking workshops. I will join a speaking club, such as the one that we have here at Women Coding Community. That will be helpful for me to start practicing, feel comfortable, feel less out of my comfort zone, right? Then in Q2, I will start actually practicing, right? So in Q2, I will practice my presentations, I will record them, right? And then I will analyze my performance, as uncomfortable as it may sound. Like for me personally, I can't see myself on the record, but yet proves a very helpful technique when it comes to improving public speaking skills. And also I will obtain feedback, right? Because from others, I will show them my recording, and I will try to get as much feedback as possible, which then ultimately will help me to improve. In Q3, I will continue practicing and I will continue delivering my presentations. So Q3 is sort of practice type of quarter. And then in Q4, I will deliver the remainder of my presentations, such as, you remember, I said I would deliver free presentations over the 12 months. I will also capture some of the learnings, right? Because I will get comfortable with my public speaking skills, but further in my life and my career, I want to continuously improve. So I will capture some of the learnings, observations that will be helpful for me in the long term. So that is my take on actions. So take a moment and brainstorm a couple of actions for the objective that you set up for yourself. And if any questions, just let me know, and then I will show you some of the reminder actions that I've put for other objectives that I had in my plan.
Yeah, I finished with 1 actions for 1 goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, like, it's good to start with good objectives, because then think what you can do in advance if you think quarterly. Think about something that you can't impact. Like if I put the project planning, and I know that if I will finish 3 projects in a year, then I definitely achieved it. But project in work, they could not depend only on me, but on other 100 factors. So I would put one more side project that will be depends only on me, but that will improve my personal project planning anyway, even if it's not working project.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, I advise everyone to try to find actions and timeline for one goal, and at the same time, let's go next.
Yeah. So here is an example of my actions and my timeline. So this is just a couple of examples, right? So again, because my template is is on the PowerPoint. So as you can see here, so for each quarter are allocated things that I would be doing. So I'm going to go to the organization example because that seems to be the most interesting one. So for me to improve my risk management skills, and with my objective of attending free department meetings and reviewing reports, in Q4, I will essentially schedule regular catch-up with my risk colleagues, right? And then I will ask them to invite me to the briefings. And I will also, another good idea, ask to share with me some of their risk reports, right, that I'm looking to review. So these are specific actions of how I'm going to enable my objective, right? So I hope this helps, and let me know if there's any questions.
If no questions, let's try to finish.
Yeah, sorry,
in 1 hour.
Time, but we should be just a little bit late. All right, so actions and timeline determined. Now, very important. Sorry, my cat keeps coming. He wants to participate as well. Important point and step 5 is to monitor and track progress. So monitoring, like I said, it can be done as often as your plan requires, right? So for the purpose of my example, I do it quarterly, right? You can do quarterly too. If it's long-term 5-year plan, you can review annually, right? So really depends. I guess my overarching advice there is, even if you have set yourself quarterly review, sometimes things change outside of the, let's say, monitoring cycle, right? So don't wait for that quarter to finish to update your plan if, let's say, your personal circumstances have changed, or if your manager got to you with some new requirements or some new information about some areas of development, right? Or maybe your organization has changed, right? Maybe the strategy of your organization changed, which requires you to take slightly different direction. So set yourself a sort of static monitoring cycle, but then again, keep it flexible because things change. We live in a dynamic world, so adapt and review as on a need basis, essentially, right? So for the purpose of this quarterly annual career development plan, so in Q1, what usually happens, we set objectives, right? So me personally at my work, so in the beginning with a new year, Q1, we set up our objectives. We determine milestones. So milestone is sort of the key, meaty, the most deliverable, sort of speak, of the career plan. We agree these objectives with a manager or with a peer, or if you have a mentor, we also review them with them. And then on a continuous basis, we get feedback, we track progress, right? So Q1, I will get back to my plan and I will update it accordingly, and I will continuously get feedback on essentially progress. So that's quite important. I will align and adapt. So you don't have to do it particularly in Q3. You can do it as you need, right? And usually in the end of Q4, you evaluate your achievements, right? So you go back and you look at your tracking, and you pretty much tap yourself on the shoulder and you say, well done, you have achieved all your objectives. That's fantastic, right? You capture your key learnings, maybe something for you to consider for your next annual career development plan, and then you set up follow-up objectives and actions, right? So again, this is just one of the examples. It really depends, right? Because you may reset your whole objectives with each quarter. It really depends on your approach and what you're trying to achieve. But that sort of is the flow that I usually take, given my circumstances. So I hope this can be a good first point of inspiration for you. So any questions on tracking the progress? So when it comes to recording a progress, right? So there is, again, many ways how you can do it, right? So you can use a percentage scale, you can write little updates, just, 1 or 2 sentences, right? But I set here an example of the percentages, right? So it's sort of like intuitive approach to this, right? For example, at my workplace, when it comes to updating and tracking progress, we usually write like little paragraphs and sentences, right? How we essentially achieved our objectives. Another point that many organizations do, and at my workplace as well, we do reflections, right, at the end of the year, and we do mid-year review, and then we do the end-year review, right? And we sort of explain how we achieved our objectives, right? So it can be another thing for you to think about when you write your progress, because then if you essentially hold yourself accountable, and you write down the notes of how you exactly achieved what you wanted, in the end of the year, it makes it easier, right? So, for example, when it comes to personal development, right? In the end of the year, you can say, I've attended all the workshops I wanted, I've participated on a monthly basis in a speaking club, and I delivered those practice presentations. So I achieved my goal, and it's 100%, right? And if let's say you feel that some of the objectives haven't been fully achieved, don't despair and don't be too harsh on yourself, because again, it's iterative process, things change, and this can be a very nice continuation for you of continuing developing and delivering on that objectives further on outside of your timeline, right? So that's essentially is the 5th step, and that's how the populated canvas of this high-level example looks like. So any questions here before I quickly take you through the last point to think about?
I just want to add that I like how you framed financial services, like attending financial services conferences, like widen your knowledge, etc. Just sometimes we don't think about developing domain, yeah. But it also could be development domain, like attending development conferences like DevOps, etc. And it's also helpful, I would say, to widen your knowledge, like what different frameworks, what different tools, etc. on the market, because market is huge, and you learn a lot from conferences, widening your knowledge.
No, absolutely. And that, also can feed into your personal objectives, right? So I think one of the most common ones is networking, right? And through attending industry conferences or, events, even, this workshop that you're attending today, it develops some of these objectives. They can be multidimensional. You can improve your industry knowledge. You can meet someone at the conference who actually, is an engineer as well. They can tell you about coding, so you can build on your role. And then you meet so many new friends. So everything is very kind of interconnected, but I think, if you try to think about this in, like structurally like this, eventually it just all falls really nice into places. But so I hope this makes sense, right? And it's a very high level example, right? Because my personal plan, it's like Excel spreadsheet, right? And it has, lines, and, I like to, brainstorm stuff, but people are different, right? There is some organizations, they use PowerPoint, some organizations, they have particular tools, right? So one of the most common one is Workday, for example, right? In Salesforce. So you can, do all of this monitoring and tracking and keying of your objectives in the company tools, right? Or because like me, I have the one company.
Yeah. And again, like,
And then I
yeah.
have a
And
personal
we can use spreadsheet.
Exactly. So I have like
template.
different approaches to this, right? So
Yeah. Let's go to be very conscious. Like, I really need to go to the next meeting right now.
yeah,
I
so
think,
very quick,
yeah,
I
it's
just
just from me. I'm going to drop. So again,
no,
please fill the feedback form. Yeah. So
no worries.
that's it from me.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, please
you will
finish.
leave us, but please don't go just yet. I wanted to just reiterate on the last point because I was referring to this pretty much through my whole presentation, right? Collecting feedback, right? So collecting feedback is very important during your career development plan. It's iterative. It's pretty much through all the stages as you go. It's important to seek input and encouragement and advice. It's because there is just so many things that sometimes we don't think about. So seek input and encouragement from your mentors, from your managers, from your peers, right? So if it's work-specific career development plan, your managers will help you and guide you what you need to know to get there, right? Your mentors can be very helpful, for example, giving you advice on the industry-wide areas for you to look at, right? And your peers, they can share their experience with you and tell you, their areas of struggle or their areas of experience and knowledge that sometimes you may miss, right? So my encouragement is, as you build your development plans, just stay connected, right, to the people that can help, right? So it can be one-on-one meetings, it can be coffees, it can be a message on LinkedIn, right? So me myself, for example, sometimes I have people reaching out to me asking for advice or input or just to brainstorm on career development related stuff or any other related stuff. So ensure to utilize people that are around you, because if you work in isolation, you just, by virtue of it, you will be missing things, or maybe not think about, or maybe it will just kind of, you will find yourself in that silo, and that's not how we operate in this world, right? We all are interconnected, and the industries are vast, and and people are always happy to help. That's what I will tell you, because you may feel uncomfortable reaching out to someone, let's say on LinkedIn, and asking advice. But from my experience, everyone is very happy to help. Everyone is happy to share. So, when it comes to mentors, they can be formal or informal mentors, right? So at Women Coding Community, we have a mentorship scheme. So feel free to join us, feel free to reach out about it, and you can find someone to speak to. Be open and transparent with your managers on your career aspirations, on your personal aspirations. I'm sure they will help. Stay connected to, other people within your organization, and stay connected to your peers for sure. And speak with them on a quarterly basis, on annual basis, on, weekly basis. It really depends how it works for you. But I just, from my experience, can tell you that this is something that will help and get you far with whatever you're trying to achieve. The network is important. And again, from my experience, it can get a little bit uncomfortable, but you can add this as your development point on your career development plan and just work on it and research and find approaches how to make this more of a natural sort of thing. So that's pretty much it. So woohoo, we covered quite lengthy content. I hope you found it useful. And in our Slack in Women Community, we have a Career Club specific channel. So please join it. And, just ping us there. Let us know about your thoughts, your reflections. If you have some questions about the exercise that we did today, feel free to share with us what you prepared today. And we are there to help and to advise and share experience and, and give you encouragement. So feel free to use that platform. It was really great to have you. If you have any questions, you feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Slack. I'm happy to chat with you. Visit our Women Coding Community website. And and stay tuned for the next Career Club related sessions. And I hope you found it useful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really useful.
Oh, I'm glad. That's excellent. That's excellent. I'm very happy to hear. Thank you so much.
project tonight. No need to thank me.
Thank you, Julia. I enjoyed your presentation.
Oh,
I thought you
I'm glad.
public speaking is quite good, actually, especially
I'm
doing
happy and good luck. Good
in a
luck.
language that isn't your first one. Thank you. Bye.
Excellent. Good luck with your career development plans, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.